Hey, this is Blaine Parrott, and welcome back to That Ain't Black podcast. And all my guests are really, really great guests, regardless of whoever they are, what kind of background they have. But I got a really great, fantastic guest, and I'm surprised this brother, throw a little dog like me a bone and hollered back at me when I sent him an email. And this is a really, really personal message because I'm both black. He's black. The guy, my tech guy, he's a smart guy. He's black. This is going out to all the black folks. This is going out to anybody, black, white, Mexican, but especially going out for minority people. And it's about the real raw subject. It's about going to prison. And I got my man, Big Herc from Fresh Out. How you doing, Big Herc?
I'm doing great, man, and thank you for the opportunity to be on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and thanks again for being on my show, man. And go ahead. I'm gonna let you tell a little bit of the background story about, how, of course, it's not so good and stuff about how you got your position and what you're doing now.
I have a channel called Fresh Out on YouTube. I've been doing the channel since 2013, and the channel came about from my experience in the system. I was sentenced to 120 months in federal prison for armed bank robbery. I was locked up from 2000 to 2008. And during that time, I took the time to really take responsibility
Mm,
for myself as a person and find out why I got to that position in life. How did I get to prison? And I had to do a lot of reflection, accept a lot of responsibility. And from that experience, I never looked back. I mean, the whole time I was in prison, I focused on studying the law, and I helped a lot of other individuals in there with their cases. That was pretty much my hustle in prison. I never really worked in prison, and I educated myself. So I spent that whole almost 9 years really educating myself, putting together business plans, ideas, working with other people, and focusing on being a better person mentally, spiritually, and physically. And when I got out in 2008 of October, I never looked back, and I decided that I wanted to do a channel that didn't glorify the prison experience, but that more or less showed people that you could turn your life around and that there's other options. I mean, for a lot of young black men, it's become a rite of passage to go to prison. And they think it's cool because you have an unregistered firearm, you can shoot it at somebody, or you can rob somebody, or whatever the case, sell drugs. And it's just a sad depiction of what the narrative is for our young black youth. And just looking at that and how I had even bought into that, and I was a smarter kid than that. I was a straight A student in school, but I didn't, put the effort into, becoming an engineer, or a programmer, or somebody of prestige as far as in the community, because I was caught up in trying to so-called be that guy. And I don't want to see young black men or any minority, and for that sake, go through that same experience, because not everybody comes out the way I came out. A lot of people come out worse. Some people don't come out at all, and
hmm
it's just a horrible experience, man. And there's so many other things kids could be doing, and the fact that we actually we we don't embrace education even in prison. Like, guys who are studying, other guys actually want to beat those guys up. They get mad if you're trying to educate yourself. And even in our culture, if you're looked down if you're a square, or if you're a nerd, if you're somebody who's you know striving for some type of educational excellence. But you're the man if you have these material objects, or you're running around in the streets and you so-called shot somebody. And that's just it's a bad look, man. And I know a lot of these kids don't have father figures or male figures around them because they're just not there. So I like to say that I don't have any biological kids, but I have hundreds of thousands of kids that I've helped through YouTube.
Yeah, because that's the biggest thing in the black community. I probably grew up similar. A lot of, especially unfortunately, in the black home, when you're growing up without the father figure, and we don't have that kind of figure to look up to, positive role models to look up to in the community, and that's really bad. Because I remember my first experience. You're probably gonna laugh at me and stuff. I was about like 8 or 9. I was in church kid and stuff, and I remember it's kind of funny because they brought this guy in. He's an ex prisoner, and he was in the church. We was down in the basement and stuff, and I couldn't believe it. He was in church. He was cussing and stuff. He was talking about prison life, and it was real, real bad. And I was like, and he was cussing out. Oh my God, he's cussing in church and stuff. And that scared the hell out of me. That scared the hell out of me. But he was real raw, and he was talking about with the prison and all this bad stuff. And it was really so bad because I remember the pastor had to come down and say, "Oh, well, it's really not that bad." It's because he was doing some cussing. But that was my first experience and stuff, and it just kind of scarred me for life. And a lot of times we don't, as far as black people, we don't grow up. We don't got positive role models in our community that we can look up to. And it's really bad that we have that. And like you said, that you trying to elevate yourself, you're trying to be a better person, you're trying to go to school, educate, you get looked down on in the community. You look down by other black people. That's really painful, and that's really ridiculous. So, what was your experience? How did it go about changing you personally after you got out? What would you really want to do?
Well, I think even prior to going to prison, I mean, it's all about exposure. I didn't have per se a father figure, but I had my grandfather, and he worked hard. He's one of those guys retired Air Force. I had 4 or 5 houses. He made well for himself. He set himself up to where when he retired, he didn't have to work another day in his life. He had no debt. But the conversations, see, the black man, and he was raised by his grandmother. So he
Mm-hmm.
never had a father figure. So we never had those sit down talks where you actually talk about your future or establish a basis for who you are as a young black man. I didn't meet that person until I was in prison. I met this OG who was doing 20 something years, and he took me under his wing, and he, you know, opened my eyes to who I was. So I didn't really understand who I was because I'd never had that conversation with another black man who had the experience, who could break it down to me of how I fit into society. And so that experience that I had under him as a mentor kind of, put a lot of pride into me, because this was a guy who was doing time, but yet he talked very proper. He came from the hood. He had, a big family in South Central, grew up, he knew gang members, but he wasn't a gang member. He had a Testarossa on the street. He had a Porsche. He had houses. He was doing all this stuff, and his crime wasn't like your typical crime. This guy was like fencing high-end goods. So he wasn't like a drug dealer, but he was on some other stuff. So when we talked, and we talked about going to these different places, and he had been exposed to a lot too. I mean, living in LA, but used to go to Beverly Hills and travel and do this and that. And I think exposure is one of the biggest things. And one of the experiences I drew from when I was in prison, once I
Mm-hmm.
really sat down and started reflecting, was I spent part of my childhood living on a military base, part of it in the hood, doing some stuff, and then I also lived in Orange County, which is the bubble, the OC bubble. And I remember going to a school which is predominantly all white, and I was around kids whose dads gave him that experience, where they went to work and learned about real estate. I knew a kid in high school whose father gave him, he had his own strawberry fields in high school. I knew another kid who ran his family's restaurant business. So I kind of started looking back at what I've been exposed to and what I didn't take advantage of. And I said, when I got out, I wasn't going to go backwards. I was going to pretty much put myself in positions to where I was always around people smarter than myself and people that I could learn from and be humble. And I realized I didn't want to be around the thug mentality, the ghetto, the hood. I realized that was something that they sold me, and I got bamboozled. So upon being released, I put myself around, I would go to Malibu. I'm going to Newport Beach. I'm hanging out in West Hollywood, Beverly. I'm hanging out in places where I can rub elbows with people who could help me. You can't get help around people who aren't doing anything. And not to say that you don't have people in the hood doing stuff, but you're fighting an uphill battle. So if you put yourself in a position where you're around people who are also successful or seeking success, and if they happen to be from the hood, so be it. But you guys can move forward, because a lot of times when you share your dreams with people who aren't on the same level, these people you grew up around, these people are like crabs in a bucket, man. They're going to say, oh, you're
Mm-hmm.
talking that old Hollywood stuff. You always, he thinks he's going to be this and that. And I remember having conversations, even with my grandfather. I said, man, I want to get me a house, 5 bedroom, blah, 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 with a pool. And he's like, well, don't live above your means. And I'm like, why would you say that?
Yeah.
Why would you say live above your means? I
Yeah.
mean, is these other white people, Jewish people, Asian people living above their means? I mean, what's the difference?
Exactly.
We're capable of the same shit.
Hmm.
So, I just realized some people are just programmed to be poor mentally, even though they might have a little bit of material wealth, but some people have a poor mentality. And I had to divorce myself from anybody who thought like that and focus on basically an energy that I could attract people who could motivate me, inspire me, and also saw how I could feed off of that. And I just started really putting myself in the right positions, and gradually things started taking off for me.
Yeah, because I had a kind of similar experience too when I wanted to go back to school, and the guys like, "Oh, you want to go back to school? Then white folks, you want to do this, you want to do that," and then you like, okay. When I first bought my house, the same kind of thing, and they were talking about what you want to get a house for, blah blah blah. I live at home, I save my money, dog, and all this kind of stuff, and it was embarrassing. I look back and reflect back. It was kind of stupid that crab mentality where you try to do something different, you try to do something better. There's some haters out there, and the bad thing about it is some of them your own black folks be dogging you out the most and stuff, and that's embarrassing. You try to do something different, you try to elevate yourself, try to step up your game, and it's ridiculous. Um, also want to ask you a question about how you feel about like in the rap industry and the hip hop and all the media industry that sits back and glorifies this lifestyle of thugging and shooting and pimping and drugging and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, that's Hollywood stuff, but you can end up in jail or dead behind that. And it's so glorified in America. Can you go ahead and talk about that maybe a little bit?
That's one of the narratives, man. And like I said, when you're young and you think, we don't feel really mentally, physically, we don't mentally develop until our late 20s as men.
Yeah.
Women develop a lot faster, but men, we still, we don't really have a grasp. So if you're fed a bunch of imagery and things of a certain nature, your ability to rationale what is actually potentially dangerous or harmful to you, you won't be able to filter it out. You won't be able to distinguish it. And that's the narrative with which you see when you have a guy in every video, he's doing this, or he's, holding the money and he's putting all this imagery, and it's in a backwoods house in the hood or somewhere. And so kids at home are thinking, well, wow, well, that guy has a Rolls Royce. That guy has, $200,000-$300,000 cash. He's in the hood, and whatever he's doing, he's not in school. So if I can emulate that guy somehow and do what he does, then maybe I can get to that point. But all that is, those are commercials for prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prison can't advertise, come in here, free bed. We got 3 hots in a cot. You got this. A guy's going to tell you to bend over, squat, and cough, look in your butthole, search your cell. You get lockdowns, you get stabbings. So what they do is they put together these other concepts, which the hip hop industry was the biggest platform for prison. They talk about prison reform. They can say all that, but all they got to do is pump up the videos for the music.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys are going to go right back in prison because by default, you get caught with an unregistered firearm. That's 7 years. Now, a felon with a prior, that's automatic 5 years. Now, so you add it up, and most of these kids are going to have their first felony before they hit 19, 20.
Yeah.
So unless you can push, imagine if these rap videos had guys going to Spelman, hanging at Howard, USC, they're in class, they coming out, they partying, but they're not doing anything negative. Imagine if it was the same beat, but the guy's studying, he's hanging out, going to dorm parties, and he's having a good time, and he shows him going to a house. He pulls up, his mom and dad, hey, son, spring break, he's doing. You can have the same fun videos, but it doesn't have to show the guy doing this with a ski mask, because every time he does this, it's only against another black man.
Exactly.
Every time he does that, it's not, there's everybody talking about the cops. No, 95% of you guys are killing each other.
Exactly.
It's all that. And then at the same time, it's like, dude, I want my mom to be able to call the police to get you guys up out of there, because it's like, I don't want to be Charlie Bronson in this thing and then have to worry about fighting my way out of a self-defense case. So it's sad that it's this, and it ties into the whole demoralization of the household and the fabric of what builds us, because when you have moral values and it's wrong, you're not going to run up with 30 other kids inside Louis Vuitton and steal a bunch of stuff, or you're not going to go in CVS and fill your bag up and walk out, because your mom wouldn't approve of that. Your dad would whoop your butt if you did that. So all this stuff is being promoted, and then when you get caught up and the judge says, oh, we're going to give you this time, you start crying. Why are you crying now?
Mm-hmm.
You were doing all this stuff. It's just like you get caught up and you get beat up, but you beat up so many people before you got beat up by the police for doing whatever you did. Dude, you didn't think you had it coming? If I would have got beat up, but I had it coming, I robbed somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So the psychological, when you start really thinking about it, you got to look at what you put, the karma and what you do to lead up to that. But the hip hop foundation is, at the end of the day, why not tell this kids, look, man, this is acting. At the end, put a disclaimer at the end of the video, please. This is all acting. This is like it's like a Terminator movie. It's like John Wick. Do not go out and do this stuff
Uh-huh.
because you're going to prison. These gang members aren't telling these kids there's nothing glorified about being you're an old man and you're still gang banging. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
do you want your kid to be doing that? Do you want your
Exactly.
kids to have to worry about getting stabbed, shot, you know, fighting with people at the mall? I mean, what kind of life is that? You know, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because it's really good. It's terrible now, especially for the black folks in the black community. Because I don't know, Whoopi Goldberg's like toxic masculinity. I don't know if they get your word for it. Is that it's this culture among the black people? You got to do this. You got to be hip. This is going to make you down. It's going to make you bad. It's going to get you the girls and stuff. And it's so elevated. It's really on steroids in Hollywood and on the internet.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's even better because it's on TikTok and Instagram and all this Twitter and stuff. They got these fools out here doing this stuff, posting it up, thinking they're the man and stuff. I remember this one dummies, they sat back and robbed somebody. These fools got it on TikTok. How damn dumb your ass got to be? Don't sit back and give them people the damn evidence. Good Lord. I mean, it's like, are you for real? This is how stupid you are? You're going to sit back and put it. They had this one rapper rapping. He's on parole, first of all. He ain't supposed to have no gun. And this dummy's rapping. He got the address in back of his house and stuff. 15 minutes after he get done posting the video, police come and pick them up. He talking about how that happened. Hell, fool, you rapping in front of your damn house with the damn gun address right back of your black ass. What the hell was you thinking? And this one rapper dude, he was just so stupid. You know, during the last 2 years, they've been getting all these unemployment checks. Talking about he's rapping about I don't gotta sit back and sell cocaine. I just fill out a form or something to get my
Uh.
oh my God.
I know a guy that said he knew that guy who got busted. The rapper talking about PPP scams.
Yeah.
That guy had just got out 6 months and wasn't out 6 months and turned around was pulling those scams
Mm-hmm.
and right back on parole.
And you sitting up there giving them evidence, you putting it out to thousands and thousands of people all over the world. You get arrested. How that happen?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy, man. These guys literally, because they want the fame. Everybody wants somebody to know about them.
Yeah.
You know?
And these fools don't understand this. And we in Seattle, Washington, they had these guys who set back up here. They robbed a pot store, shot into the air. Judge let them go like 2 days later, go back home. They cut off their thing. They're all over Seattle. Everybody in Seattle knows about it. And went on out 2 days, 3 days later, after the judge let them out to go on home from home arrest, cut their thing off and went back out there and did something else. Are you serious? And they're young kids and stuff like that. And I always think about, oh my God, this is your future, man. You're going to go to jail for a long time. And these guys don't know the serious enough about prison. And that's what attracted me to wanting to get you on my show. Prison ain't no damn joke. I was looking at your stuff that you got like, God damn, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that goddamn bad. This shit's horrendous. I mean, I was looking at some of the interviews like with DJ Red. I was like, oh man, what he went through and with Silverback, I'm like, this some serious stuff. Jail ain't no damn vacation land, fool.
Yeah, but see what they're doing now is
Mhm.
you got guys in there with cell phones. They act like they got a big screen. They're in there partying. And dude, I'm telling you right now, it's like if you thought that jail wasn't that bad, then you never would live in life, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You never would live in life. If you think
Yeah.
that place was cool and you can have a spread and you got your little TV in there and you're with a bunch of men, you
Yeah.
want to be, that's hell. A bunch of men, no women, that's hell, man.
Yeah,
Living.
yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And to see, the thing is, these guys think it's a party when they first get there. The first couple years, I've seen guys, but like I've seen guys in the Feds who've been down 20, and dude, they're grandpas now.
Yeah.
And then like their youth is gone now. When they get paroled, if they do after 30 years and they get out, man, all that was short lived because you did all that and you lost 30 years,
Exactly.
20 some years. Now you're talking about who cares if you were in there part with a bunch of dudes
Yeah,
and you only see
exactly.
your kids in a little room and you couldn't raise them and you're talking about, oh, my son don't want to talk to me, my daughter don't want nothing to do with me, blah, 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 blah. Look at you, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, at the end of the day, it was an embarrassment for me. And I didn't even see my family for almost 2 years after I got out because I wanted to show them I got my act together,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't want to be one of those people asking for a handout, or people, or a lot of people are scared of you because they don't know what kind of time you're on and they thinking you're crazy. So I just stayed away. And then when I did show up, I didn't. I had my shit together. I was doing some things. I had a couple of businesses going, but there's nothing to be proud of, man. There's nothing to say, you were in there and you were stabbing. I mean, do you really think that that's you had to, that was my worst fear, that I had to actually physically go up and stab somebody and risk getting more time, and then also just getting into that barbaric mentality, because once
Yeah.
you become a barbarian,
Uh-huh.
once you become that person, it's hard to now shift back to be a normal. And one of the things I did in prison, which allowed me to transition a lot quicker and a lot more efficiently than most people, is I never became institutionalized. I
Uh-huh.
never called myself a convict in prison. I never called myself an inmate. I used to tell the guards, you either call me Big Herc or you call me Marcus Timmons, but I'm not no inmate and I'm not no convict. And I used to tell guys, I'm only passing through here. They're like, oh, you're doing time. I said, no, you're doing time. I'm passing through.
Mm-hmm.
This is not my home. I didn't put no wax on the floors. I didn't buff no sinks. I wasn't trying to make, like, some guys act like that little jail cell was like a damn condominium on Beverly Hills
Yeah.
in Rodeo Drive. They
Mm-hmm.
they treated that thing like, dude, that was their prized possession. And you could see that people who live like that, who are so proud to have a locker, two lockers full of top ramen, you ain't never had anything on the street.
Uh-huh.
Those same guys on the street are living on somebody's couch. They're riding a bicycle through the neighborhood and they don't have a job. They're drug addicts, but in prison, they're shot callers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those guys ain't doing nothing on the street because in prison, they feel they have somebody. There's somebody. They go to the yard, they're doing this. And dude, that place was horrible. Every day I used to look, man, I used to think to myself, man, when is this nightmare going to end?
Yeah. Yeah. It's really bad. It's really bad. That mentality is incredible. I mean, when you go into prison, because like I said, I was looking at some of your videos. I want to give them away because I want them to look at your stuff about what you're talking about. Because you got that experience. It's bad. It's a gladiator mentality. It's a you, you getting treated like a bitch. You getting treated like a dog. You get beat up. You got all this stuff that's going on. It's like, God damn, ain't no damn way in the world I can sit back and have that kind of lifestyle. And I hope it, when your message goes out, it really reaches a lot of young brothers and stuff. Because that's one of the bad things in America is that our biggest population we got in the world. We got the largest prison population, and also the larger people in prison are black people, and that's terrible. And it is really bad. And I think it's kind of like a race, kind of like 'cause you always hear at the end of the year and stuff about budgets and stuff. You hear about we don't got the school budget, we don't got the budget for this, but you don't see them tell, hey man, we got to cut back on this prison stuff, man, because it takes like an average of $33,000 to $60,000 to keep a person in prison. They don't take that same kind of money and allocate that toward the inner city communities to sit back and try to get some job training programs, try to get better schools or whatever like that. Try to put teachers in schools to educate kids, mentoring programs, skill building programs, going to community college. You ain't got to necessarily go to college. You can train plumbers and mechanics and stuff. And there's a lot of smart, educated guys who probably never got that chance or opportunity to take whatever kind of skills they had and apply it to get these good paying jobs. And it's ridiculous. But can you go ahead and give some a word of advice about somebody who's looking at this glam and fam and stuff and think that's all cool? Because it's kind of hard to compete with the rap industry. They think it's all cool. You shoot somebody, you do this, and oh man, you take your time. I remember this dude. I got my zipper. Like he got shot and he thinks it's cool.
Oh
I'm like,
man.
what the zipper? And I'm like,
Oh,
well, you think that's cool? Your ass got shot. You live, so you wanna?
that's it's horrible, man. And like you said about the funding and stuff, the same amount of money they take on far as putting into these prisons, and they're saying like lobbying to keep prisons open. You see, it's got to be a transition, But I'm not saying that you just let people run rampant,
Yeah.
but you got to educate. So, like you said, like say in the inner cities, if you had a learning center where like some of these kids don't have the access to computers and different like employment skills. Like I never met growing up, I never met a doctor.
Yeah.
I never met a lawyer.
Yeah.
I never met a person who had an LLC or an S corp who ran a real estate firm. So you need to expose the kids to these people to know that those people look like you.
Yeah.
Like you can have a guy who's a coder who's making a million a year, and he works at this computer company, maybe doing microchips or whatever the case may be, or he runs he's a department developer. See, you got to talk to these people. See, you whatever you talk to or you're surrounded around
Yeah.
is what's going to leave an impression on you. So that's one of the biggest things, because once you get to prison, it's already kind of too late, because now you have to fight against all the racism in prison, the cliques, the gangs, the police in there, the tyranny, and so you're competing uphill. But why not catch a kid 12, 13 and give them that exposure? You don't have to be a rapper or go into the NFL or NBA. You can go and open up your own auto body shop. You can go and get into HVAC,
Yeah.
mess around and make money just doing air conditioners, multi-million-dollar business. You can do a muffler shop, make 200,000 a year. There's all these different options. But if you never talked or heard about these things, to you, they're non-existent. So providing these resources to the community, and all the black people, who predominantly the ones in these communities who are in power, they just lip service. They're not
Yeah.
doing nothing. They're talking about, oh, they're blaming it on this party, that party. They're both the same party. Both of them are doing the same shit,
Exactly.
And the prisons that they have open, the people, they're in these areas where these communities have nothing but the prison economy. Like if you take some of these prisons they've been trying to close, they're lobbying to try to keep them open, because when they leave, that's their whole economy. The food distribution. Somebody's in a community selling food to the prison. The employment, all the guards, all the women who work at the prison, the schools. Everybody's two through generations. Some of these guys' dads and uncles worked at the prison. So my thing is, okay, oh, we don't not have no jobs. Yeah, you do. Open up something else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be a lock and key man and go around and oppress people. Create another job, and in the communities, like you said, provide an educational resource center where these kids could be exposed. Why don't we have more black golfers? Why don't we have kids getting involved in engineering with NASCAR or some of these other F1 racing? Why aren't we involved in things and more electronics? Why don't we? Where's the black
Exactly.
Elon Musk at?
Exactly.
We have all the same potential. You're not
Mm-hmm.
just, there's other things besides smoking weed and thinking, oh man, I'm gonna play these video games, I'm gonna be like Snoop and all this. Those are already people in professional positions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a false sense of reality. But the reality is, if you take that and see, it goes down from the parents. If your parents haven't really aspired for greatness, how are you going to aspire for greatness? So
Exactly.
you got to be exposed. Like in my family, I aspire, my goals to go beyond anybody else in my household that I grew
Mm-hmm.
up around. So they're my family by default. I love them, but for what I want to accomplish, I know I couldn't get it from them.
Uh-huh.
They couldn't tell me how to create multi revenue streams or how to go about studying, putting together an S corp or tax write-offs or all these different things. They didn't never do none of that. They're worker bees.
Yeah.
So it's all about being exposed. And like I said, the greatest exposure, like you said, right now is hip hop, and hip hop doesn't show you any of that. And in spite of like these guys talking about, oh, black this, black that, but none of these guys are coming out and saying, hey man, we rap about this, but look, you guys, this is not the way to go. Because if they did that, think about most of these guys demographics and fan base is tied into gang membership. So if you're a gang rapper, you talk about you're East Coast or whatever, and you're a Crip, then you're going to have all these many people, and the labels know this, so they know that they're going to have a locked in immediate fan base that's going to buy all these records. And the more beef they have, the more the records sell. See, back in the day, Biggie and Tupac, remember, there wasn't a whole lot of hip hop deaths.
Yeah.
That was like people like were blown away when those two left, and it's like wow. And everybody was more or less, man, we got to come together. But now, dude, it's not 1 or 2 days go by and I see something across the country, Miami, Texas, somebody's getting killed.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, dude, this one, forgot his name, is a rapper and stuff. He had just signed a contract. like less than like 8 or 9 days later, his ass got shot. And I'll ask you going back a little trick question before that because I remember they had this one program for the juvenile delinquents and stuff, and they brought these brothers in. They were like CEOs and business guys, and they were kind of like talking with them, and they were sitting back saying they wasn't going too well. And they said, "Well, how much money you guys making?" And stuff. Because these kids talking about, "I want to have this kind of car and stuff." And when they sit back and they told him, one guy was like a CEO, another guy was a business owner. He said, "Well, I'm making $300,000 a year. I'm making $500,000." And the kids, it just changed the atmosphere. They're like, "You are black, and you make this amount of money," and it just stopped it. Like it's just like you think they had a Santa Claus came and say, you went to school, got this, and you open up your business. You making $350,000 a year. And they say, well, 12 times. Oh my God! And they were just blown away. You black and you making this kind of money? You legit? No, you legit. You good. You got that white man money. You up there doing them things. They were just totally blown away because they had never seen body from their neighborhood do that and be legitimate. So that's what my whole podcast is, to try to get black people into good role models and changing that, hey, we can do something other than rapping, dancing, and playing basketball. And trust me, like I said, I got a page that's opposite of this called That's Not Black Podcast. And that's all it is black people around the country who are doing great things in business and education, law, just opening up businesses. I love black folks doing business. I sit back and I say, I ain't making no damn apologies when I sit back trying to put black folks in business. Hell, white folks, I had one of my first guys, and there was a black guy. He was doing liquor and stuff. He owned his own whiskey business. And I said, well, shoot, y'all sitting up here drinking Jack Daniels and all that kind of stuff. Why can't you drink none of our stuff? Y'all bragging about Courvoisier and all this kind of stuff. Go ahead and drink the black man stuff. And they got all these black folks in the liquor industry who's doing a lot of stuff. And they're big guys, and they're doing this stuff. And I like, all these white folks out here doing it? All these white folks getting these soda pop companies and stuff?
You know, the code game about that is a lot of times, like now you say you have a whiskey, and they're going to be like, Blaine, this is your whiskey?
Yeah.
Oh, man. You sell this? Oh, man. Just why don't you give me a bottle or two? See, they don't want to buy.
Exactly.
You been with a white dude? Oh, man, I'll pay. Let me get 10 bottles. Let me get 5 bottles. You know, my buddy, he was a bartender, and he said the worst nights were the black nightclubs because the blacks never want to tip. I mean, they didn't want to pay for anything. They didn't want to tip, do nothing. But on the white nights, Asian night, they spend the money, they tip in, you know what I mean? So it's a cold game, man. Can we talk a lot about black unity and black people talking about all this and that? You guys is not, you know, if you said you had a black car company and it rivaled Mercedes, the fact that it's yours, even if the car was a better car, they're gonna go buy Mercedes because they figure, oh man, it's not it's a white, so it must be better because the white man is selling it. It's a white man's brand behind it. So a lot of companies, what dudes do is put a white dude in front of it, but a black guy in the cut. It's like the brother who used to own Jet Magazine and Ebony Magazine. He said he wrote a book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?
I remember that. Yes, very good book.
He said when he used to go around to buy his buildings in real estate, he said he had a Jew guy with him who was his attorney, and he would act like he was just the guy's chauffeur, and he'd walk behind him and they'd be talking to the Jewish guy thinking, oh, because these Jewish people selling the buildings, and they would be like, oh, okay. But then he would turn around, and that's how he was able to acquire a lot of this stuff, man. But it's like it's a messed up game, man. And you know, and I'm not hating on any particular race. I'm just saying these are just facts. I mean, they said one of the things that took Bob Johnson down, which made him, they kind of like pressure him to sell the company, was a guy was telling me that worked for BT, said Bob Johnson, nobody knew how much he was worth, but they did a documentary or something on him, and they showed his daughter riding the horses doing the steeple, and they were like, this is a black man, his daughter is riding, he's got horses? Who is this man? We need to go after him. And then they kind of started looking at him like, you need to sell us this because you're doing way too much.
Yeah, exactly.
You're on the radar now. So see, it's like a crazy game because at one point, you know, we got to slide underneath the radar and you got to use all these tactics. But it's like he said, like Kanye said, if we have a black Cortera label, why don't you buy black? You still go right by and buy the French stuff. You buy the the European stuff, but you don't support. So
Exactly.
people, it's an oxymoron because it's like they think that buying these things or driving this car, it gives them validity. That
Uh-huh.
shit don't give you no goddamn validity.
No, no, hell no.
It don't make you any more important that you're accepted by that community now because you have that.
Mm.
And that's the false sense of reality. And we've been chasing that for so long. And it's like, we think it's almost like when you act in a certain way, it makes you more black. No, that doesn't mean it makes you more black. That's a trick bag.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So it's like, there's so many opportunities and there's so many people, whether it's a watchmaker, a suit maker, auto designer. I mean, these are the people, there's so many like that are in there, but we don't know about them. And especially a lot of the black youth, like you said, they see these people and they start doing the math. Dude, that guy working that job making $3, he's making more than your drug dealer who's not hiding from the police.
Exactly.
He's not trying to like duck and dodge, and he ain't got to worry about somebody robbing him, you know what I mean, or jacking him in his house. So there's a lot of false narratives out there, and to punch through them right now, like I said, it's an uphill battle. I mean, on YouTube, we practically got shadow banned because, I speak a lot of things and I don't talk from a victim mentality.
Uh-huh.
And for somebody to try to say, people say, oh man, Big Herc, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, man, if there was anybody that needed to complain, I could make up all the excuses in the world. I've been through all these juvenile hall, CYA, federal prison, never knew my dad. But I don't make excuses for my shortcomings. I just get out here and get it done, because when you try to justify that, it makes you weak.
Yeah.
It makes you weaker every time you try to say, I can't do it because it is. Now, on the flip side, the people who are complaining, most of them have no felonies.
Yeah.
What's your excuse?
Exactly. You good. You good.
You good. You can get out here, navigate, fill out application, no felons. I mean, literally, I've gotten pulled over multiple times. And I tell a person, they used to ask me, man, you've never been arrested? Nah, man. Come on, man. I know you've been arrested. Nah, I've never been arrested. And I lied just because at the time I knew that I didn't want them going through my car. But I'm saying, like, for people, a lot of the people who are raw, they're creating, they're almost setting us back by making us feel that we're so weak, we can't get it on our own. Man, we've been getting it.
Exactly.
There's a lot of successful black people out there. There's a lot of people who aren't rappers, who aren't talking about killing each other, who have big farms, ranches, property, live on golf courses, private jets. But the fact that you don't see them don't mean they don't exist.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, we have a certain level of excellence, and that's where the focus needs to be on. And that's what I always push. That's why I say, hey, never settle for average, because we settle a lot of times, and then we try to justify, because, see, they keep putting that image out there. Oh, you guys don't have this because of this and this and that. And that's what they want us to buy into that. Yeah. It's like us buying into all of us came from slavery. No, there were blacks over here that been here, that had property, that were, so if you had that narrative in school, you're like, wait a minute. I ain't down with Kunta Kinte. I ain't from Boopty Bop. Now it's like, okay, I'm right here with you. I'm not I didn't come from that, because it demoralizes you. Exactly. If you feel like you came from a king, your mom was a queen, you have, you had a nice house, you came from value, you're not going to do stupid shit. Exactly. If you know that your parents and your relatives, and you have an uncle and you have a prestige in the community, you know that that's your family name, you're going to treat it like something. And that's what a lot of young brothers need to start treating themselves like something, because you want your name to mean something. You want to have a legacy.
Yeah, because that's ridiculous. I remember talking with some of the people in my community on the podcast, and a lot of black people who come from different cultures and different countries, they come over here and they be doing better than the brothers been here for a long time. I mean, down on Rainier Avenue where I come from, a lot of people, Ethiopians, Eritreans, or whatever, they got more black businesses, and they come from different countries than black people who've been here. And they support each other and stuff like that. And it's incredible. And like you were going back saying, they'll sit back and give the white boys some dollars, dog your ass out, kick you to the curb, and treat you second class. And it's wrong. And it's ridiculous. And and it's been really great and everything. And anything else you want to go ahead and give advice about, because we got, like I said, again, this hip hop stuff on steroids, just thing that, you can be a bad boy, you can do this, do the drugs, do the shooting, all that kind of stuff. and you go to jail, that ain't all that. Any kind of else advice you want to give out?
Well, just like you said about the blacks from other countries, or with Africans or Ethiopians who come over here, it's because they haven't been indoctrinated with the
Yeah,
history that we have. So they have a different perception. They don't look at racism. They don't look at white and black. They come over here and they just get it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So their mentality is different. And so they're not embedded or programmed with the mentality that, oh man, the white guy, he'd keep me down. I can't do this. They just go out here and apply for it, go get it, use the resources. They turn each other on to different grants. They have somebody that works in a position, whether it's a bank or some lending institution. They teach you how to fill out the form. They help each other
yeah.
get the loans. And that's the same, so it's not like the resources aren't there. Blacks just aren't utilizing the resources like they
Uh-huh.
should. And we're not working together as a unit. And as soon as you start talking, I mean, you can I know a bunch of people, and I throw out sometimes ideas just to see who would jump on them, and a lot of people just are complacent, so you
Uh-huh.
can't pull somebody up with you who doesn't have the same values or want the same goals. So you got to make sure whoever it is, it's like if you're trying to build a multi-million-dollar company, but the person you're around is cool just having just a bullshit car, living whatever, and you're pulling all the weight, you can't
Yeah.
expect them to contribute to your business and help it grow like you want it to grow. So the thing is, it's not like you got to find people with the same mentality, whether regardless if they look like you, because not
Uh-huh.
everybody that looks like you are going to have the same goals long term. They're not going
Exactly.
to maybe have the same objectives or want to build the same. And so you got to be discretionary in who you let into your circle and who you share your ideas with and who you choose to socialize with, because you're thinking, oh, I'm keeping it 100. I got my brothers. And then you turn around, you get robbed, and you wonder, damn, how this happened. Well, you should have seen the signs. That guy wasn't somebody who was naturally had your best interest, but because he was black or whatever,
Uh-huh.
thought that he was on your team. And I'm not picking out any particular blacks. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
there are people. I've been in places where there's not a lot of blacks. And when I see another brother, hey man, what's up? What's up, man?
Uh-huh.
Hey, all right. You see, I done
Uh-huh.
been, and they like, we're on the same page, because naturally if he's here, he
Uh-huh.
sees the game too. So you
Exactly.
got to go places where you can see people who are already kind of trying to get there, because you can't force somebody who's programmed to be poor. Like Richard Kosaki said, the rich dad, poor dad, people are programmed to be poor. And it's not like they can't get the money, it's just they have a poor mentality.
Uh-huh.
It's like you give somebody a lottery, you can give somebody a pile of cash, but
Uh-huh.
in 5 years they'll be broke. And you could take money from people who have money, who built it up, and in 5 years they'll be right back where they were,
Uh-huh.
because you know how to go about making that happen.
Uh-huh.
So that's the thing, man. It's like wealth is a mentality. It's something that's ingrained in you to be successful or
Mm.
wealthy and to achieve a certain level of success. And some people just haven't learned that yet. And so, like I said, I think exposure is the biggest thing. And just like reprogramming what your goals are, man. I mean, we're putting it out there, you're putting it out there with your channel, and there is black excellence, there's black success out there. But like a lot of people, and with the narrative right now, which, unless we have our own station where we can start doing our own videos at a
Uh-huh.
major level, these labels are keeping that. See, by perpetuating that, they got these guys distracted.
Uh-huh.
See, because they're not looking at over here all the kids going to USC, Loyola Marymount, or whatever prestigious universities. They're not looking, or Xavier, Baylor. But if they seen that and be like, wow, you mean the same energy I'm putting over here, I could be putting into getting into these universities to get an education, and
Mm-hmm.
going to these schools. It doesn't make me so-called a sellout.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not a
Exactly.
sellout because you want to go to a university and be educated, or because you want to get a house by the golf course, or because you want to drive a nice car or start a liquor company or whatever the case may be. That doesn't make you a sellout.
Uh-huh.
If you want to play the violin or teach your kid to be a pianist, why is that a
Exactly.
sellout?
Exactly, because they got this kind of like stupid concept, get somewhere if you're educated or you're smart or whatever. That's a white thing. Well, education not allocated just to white people. Where they get that? You smart is the white thing. It's not. Lots of people of different color have always been educated and smart. Oh, you talking white or whatever. Like, what do you mean I'm talking white?
I've had that a lot of
Yeah,
times,
what do you
man.
mean you talking white? I remember someone said that. Oh, you talk too white. You talk white. We're going to talk white.
What is talking white?
What's that? Because I'm educated or how's that white? Is this education is just a white thing or something like that? It's a stupid stereotype. Really pissed me off, and it's ridiculous. And man, this is really great, man. I really like what you're doing out there. You're trying to teach young brothers and stuff. Don't go down this path or whatever. Do not do that. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's wrong. You're gonna get your ass in there with your head. You get in prison. I remember this one dude was trying to impress me. I'm like, hey man, I do what I do, man. 'Cause I ain't afraid to go to the joint. And I said, you must be really gay or something like that, or you lying. I ain't got nothing against gay people, nothing like that. Should have some gay people on my show and stuff like that. But nah, man, your ass is lying. Ain't nobody tough enough for the pen. All these guys talking about, I ain't afraid to go to the pen. He said it like he's like, look, this.
Well, because see, they teach you in the hood that it's hard. See, it's hard. You go to the pen, you come out, you hard. And I remember when I was young, I used to see dudes who just got out. They got the locs on. They buff and they walking around. You're like, oh man, that dude, he just got out of Folsom. That guy just got out of San Quentin. You're like, oh, but that was not a badge of honor.
No.
And now looking at it, and like I said, I hadn't really ran across any black professionals. Like I said, my family was military, so I didn't really see any black lawyers or doctors or guys who ran their own car dealerships or own buildings. I didn't meet that until I got out of prison and started running around a different circle of people in Southern California. And once you see these people, you talk to them and you realize, wow, man, I wasted a lot of time on some bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I could have been one of these guys, doing real estate, or, I could have started my own tech company, or, I could have went to Stanford, met some nerds and, started my own whatever brand. And that's the thing, man. It's like they're getting hoodwinked white now, and they're buying into it. Like you said, that you talking white or you're acting like this. I mean, what is that? I mean,
exactly.
It's a false reality, but a false narrative, and all we can do is offer an alternative. Some kids are going to see it and realize, you know what, you guys are right. Other kids are going to be like, oh man, and then they're going to have to learn and go through that fire. But I mean, like you said, there's nothing to be proud of. To say I'm going to the P, I was in the P, I did this, and I was checking fools. Checking fools. Why don't you check your kids on the street?
Exactly.
Take care of your kids, man. Get them into school. Why don't you make sure your kids can get, an education and make sure they stay out of trouble? Why don't you make sure that they can grow up to be better than you? Every generation should want to do better.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of Thomas Sowell, and I look at how the evolution of the black culture and why we go backwards in our level of community articulation. Why are we going backwards on how we are showing ourselves in the public? We used to dress sharp, suits and talk proper, and we were doing this and that. That wasn't something we were doing. That was something down in people who were less educated. But now it's like being and acting less educated is hip.
Exactly.
Talking where people got to listen to you because you're mumbling is cool.
Exactly.
What's cool about that?
Exactly. It's ridiculous. It's totally and completely ridiculous. Because I remember one of the guys, when I told you first started that, when the guy was talking to me in church and stuff, he said, you want to be a bad boy, whatever like that. And I remember he said, well, you black, white folks can do that stuff because they white. White boys sit back, get his tattoo and all that kind of stuff, but you black, that can stick with you for life. So you got to watch out what you doing, okay? Yep. White boy, you can get them tattoos and all that kind of crazy stuff, and he'll go to jail and they'll talk about his mommy didn't treat him right. He'll get some psychologist or whatever like that. Come up with this line of bullshit about why he did. But your ass, you do something, your ass did it. Your ass is black. You just did it. White boy, he did it because his mom, didn't give enough cookies. His dad didn't do this, whatever. Get some psychiatrist out there and come up with some reason why he did what he did. But when your ass do something, your ass just did something.
Oh, dude, you're hit. You're hit. You're black and you get that gang tattoos. A white boy come out, everybody looks like him, dude. He'll get all kind of talk show interviews and all over book deals. And you're a black guy? Oh man, that's normal for you guys. But see, little Timmy here, he had a rough childhood. His dad was abusive, and his mom, and he, like you said, he didn't get his oatmeal, and he just kind of went off. You know what I mean? He did a little drugs. And now he's a successful. He's been on Oprah's bestsellers list and all this stuff. But it's not the same, man. I see it, man. I say all the time. I say, man, if I was a white dude, I'd already be worth $1 billion, man.
Exactly.
Because that's how society's set up. It's just reality. I'm not.
Exactly.
I just know that that's the game, and you know you can fall down a bunch of more times. But if you're black, bro, you have so much more you got to work through to prove yourself. Mess up.
Yeah.
So I try to tell the brothers, don't even mess up because it's already hard enough.
Exactly. Because that's why I never got a tattoo. It's kind of funny because I remember I was going to get a tattoo. I was going to give me a tattoo and stuff like that. And the guy said, well, I want to see I'm bad and stuff. And the guy said, nigga, you black. They going to think you bad already. You don't need no tattoos and stuff, okay? You ain't got your tattoo. Your skin color's your tattoo, okay?
That's right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But man, you've been a really, really great guest, man. You got anything upcoming that you want to talk about? Are you gonna go? You gonna write another book? Go on tour or anything?
Actually, I got an autobiography I finished up. I'm just working on putting it all together. I got the cover. I just finished the cover, so I'm basically formatting that book. Hopefully, I'll have it ready by beginning of summer to drop. And just I wrote a couple of TV shows here in the last year or so during this whole situation. So I'm looking at, trying to get those put on a regular network. So yeah, man, just subscribe to, Big Herc 916 on YouTube and Fresh Out. And we keep dropping game, man. And hopefully, we can, kind of bust through this bubble because I know I'm fighting an uphill narrative with the whole, the direction I'm going in. But I got to stay true to myself, man. I know the mistakes I made. And I've seen just the direction a lot of these young men is going in. And I don't want to see these guys have to go through the same thing I went through.
Exactly. Because I know two of my friends I grew up with. One guy, I grew up with him in the neighborhood. He did something bad, and he went to jail for a while. He's got out, and he's doing really great. And I know this other guy I met and stuff, and he was in for a little bit, going out, got his own business. He's doing fantastic, So it doesn't mean just because you did something bad in life doesn't mean that has to be your life.
That's right.
They're doing great. They're doing fantastic. I mean, you wouldn't even know and stuff. You wouldn't even know. They did this stuff. They fucked up when they was younger. They got their shit together, and they're rolling good, dude. I mean, shit, they doing great. Family, job, everything. And they're really, really doing good. I'm really proud of them, But, man, thanks a lot for being on That Ain't Black podcast. And keep on doing your thing, man, because you're really doing good. And, man, a really, really great. Thanks again for being on my show. You're a big YouTube star and everything. And you definitely got a good message out there for a lot of young brothers, a lot of young sisters, brothers. I don't give a damn what race you are. Your ass don't need to be inside there, okay? You definitely don't want to be inside there. Go ahead, obey the law. Keep your head above water and keep on striving, man. You're black, you can do it. You're brother, you can do it. You're Mexican, whatever you did, you can go ahead and do that. And thanks a lot one more time for being on That Ain't Black podcast with Blaine Parrott, Big Herc, 916.
Thank you for the opportunity, man.
All right, man. Cool. Thanks a lot, man.